Adam Silver at his Board of Governor press conference in New York. I was in New York a couple of days ago. It was a handful of us in the room with him. And one of the questions that I asked him was, you're trying to legislate parity. Like the CBA is clearly designed, not just this one, but starting with the 2011 CBA, even though Adam Silver wasn't actually in charge, that was still David Stern's league, but that was Adam Silver's CBA. Make no mistake about it, guys. He hadn't yet taken over. He was still deputy commissioner, but he was the lead negotiator on that. This was the NBA that he was going to have to take over. Now, DA, the league that you grew up initially covering, that you talked about, the, go away for 6 weeks NBA. That's the 80s and the 90s. That is the explosion of the league with whether it's the TV rights, the Magic Bird, Jordan, transition and everything else. Those were the days that we considered the golden era of people of a certain age. And parity was not something that the NBA was striving to have. They had a lot of expansion. They went from 23 teams to 29 or whatever in like a 6-year period. But to close this out, David, do you believe that it's a stronger league when great teams have to be pared down to just good teams because their best players can't all be held on to and they have to go elsewhere to get paid? Or do you like this NFL style where, you know what, you look on a piece of paper, maybe 10 teams feel like they have a chance of winning the championship compared to maybe 4 or 5 or maybe 3 back when I was starting to watch it and you were, in the throes of covering it?
Yeah, no, I like dynasties. I've always liked dynasties.
Yeah.
My kids would get very upset every year when they watch football, and no matter where Tom Brady played, his team won the Super Bowl, and they got mad because we're sick of watching Tom Brady. We want somebody else to win. Like, then build a team good enough to beat Tom Brady. Stop whining. You know what I mean? Like, I like he's the best that ever lived. You got to be the best who ever lived to beat him.
Right.
And so I don't have a problem with that. Like, I grew up with Magic Bird, Michael Jordan, and Isaiah Thomas. I don't mind excellence. I like excellence. Like, those people are great, and they deserve to be on top until somebody is good enough to beat them. And so that's never been a problem for me. I have all, but you can hold different opinions in your mind that may contradict one another. It is also important that any league, whether it's the NFL, the NBA, baseball, hockey, whatever, that everybody have a chance to compete, not to win, because everybody can't win, but to compete and to put a product on the floor that people want to watch. I always use the analogy that, as you know, Vinny, you grew up in the Midwest. It gets cold in the Midwest in the wintertime.
Yes, it does.
It gets cold in December. It's cold in January in Milwaukee and in Indiana.
It's cold in May
Chicago
half the damn
Detroit.
time.
It's cold. So you got to give me a reason to come up out of this warm house and put a coat on and take these kids and spend my money watching a basketball game when I could sit in my nice chair and watch TV and stay warm. You got to give me a reason. And so those teams have to put a product out there that's good enough to compete. That's why it's important that Giannis be in Milwaukee. That's important to the NBA. Like, because people in Milwaukee got to have somebody to root for too, so that matters. So the league has been doing this for 20 years. They've been trying to legislate parity. This is nothing new. This is the logical extension of luxury tax, revenue sharing, all of these things that have been designed to equal the playing field, right? So it is what it is. Competition is the best players are still going to win more often than not. But you can't have a league, and I think this is a fair point. You can't have a league where half the teams in the league check out before the All-Star break because they have no chance and they just start tanking. You can't have that. I understand that. And that's the other thing they've done. They've legislated tanking out of the equation by making it far less advantageous to be really, really bad. Like, you have a 1 in 4 chance now to get the first pick if you're one of the worst teams in the league. So they are at all levels trying to make the league, make people spend money, but not too much money to put a good product on the floor. So are those things contradictory? Yes, but I understand the contradiction.
It's a weird thing because for people who don't remember the 2011 CBA, I'm not going to go all the way back into the archives and everything else, but remember, the team that it hurt the most in 2011, 2012 was the small market Oklahoma City Thunder, who drafted well. They drafted 3 superstars who all earned max contracts. And because they were in the small market and could not or chose not to go into the luxury tax and did not have the in-town revenue that the Lakers have or that the Knicks have, it was very punitive, or would have been very punitive, to hold on to Kevin Durant on a max and then a Rose max, where legislated into the 2011 CBA, where he wound up going from 25% of the cap to 30% of the cap, and then Russell Westbrook, and then James Harden. Those were supposed to hurt the big market teams from overspending. It hurt the small market team from being able to capitalize on everything that it had done right. We're going to draft well. We're going to develop well. We drafted 3 superstars in 3 years. I don't think that's ever been done. And it wound up hurting them more than it wound up hurting its the intended effect of legislating parity amongst the top crust of the big market teams.
I'm going to push back a little bit on that now. Look, we ain't going to have no benefit concerts for Clay Bennett now, are we?
Not never.
That's a choice. Again, that's a choice. You chose not to go into the luxury tax. You chose to move that team from Seattle to Oklahoma City, presumably so that you would have a chance to maximize the revenues of that franchise in Oklahoma City, which is a choice. Okay. You also made the choice that I'm not going to spend luxury tax money to keep this team together. So, I'm not going to have no pity party for ownership now.
Never. No,
you make choices in this world. Jalen Brunson chose to take less money because he wanted to have a better chance to keep the Knicks together and add more pieces. Players have say in this too. So you can't just say, well, I'm a max player, I deserve the max, and this player deserves the max, and this player deserves the max, and we win 49 games. Well, no, I can't have 3 max contracts on a team that wins 49 games. So everybody's got to understand that everybody's part of this, and again, I use the Knicks as an example because Jalen Brunson, that's as one of the most selfless things I've seen a superstar player do. Every superstar player can do the exact same thing Jalen Brunson did to be able to have more good players on the team and enhance our chances of winning. So you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. You can't say put a championship team together and, oh, by the way, give me $50 million when I'm barely an all-star player. Come on.
That's a good point. And on the back end of that, with Jalen Brunson, when his contract is up, he can sign for a 10-year, player of service max.
He'll get paid. I understand. He'll get paid. But I'm just saying, everybody this is all about choice, freedom of choice, whether it's a player, an owner, a general manager, a coach. Everybody's part of the choices that a franchise makes to decide how willing they are going to be to put a championship team together and then keep a championship team going. That's why I will never have a bad thing to say about Joe Lacob. I won't have a bad thing to say about Wick Grossbeck and Steve Pagliuca in Boston, because they put money on the table and they kept putting money on the table to keep those teams together. And you got to give them credit for that, and Joe Lacob finally said, okay, that's enough luxury tax. My team's not good enough anymore. But he paid that luxury tax for years to keep that team together and to keep winning championships.
Yeah, like you said, it's a double-edged sword. And I think, and just to close this out, because one of the points that Adam made to my question was, we want Giannis to stay in the place that he's at. And I'm like, absolutely. But it's not just Giannis. Just like it wasn't just Magic and Bird and Michael and Isaiah. It was the corresponding players around him that created the texture. It was the James Worthys, the Kevin McHale's, the Joe Dumars. There's all those type of guys who were there that helped create the vision of everything that we saw. Some of the parts were more interchangeable than others. That's why you get to see the Celtics on top for an entire decade, the Lakers and everything else. Norm Nixon went to Byron Scott, Bob McAdoo went to James Worthy, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I get the larger point of everybody, DA, has a choice here. My sensibilities are, if you have a championship historical type of player, I don't want the system to break it up. I want someone to come and knock Mufasa off of Pride Rock. Wear a scarf.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
Maybe that's the wrong analogy to make considering James Earl Jones just passed, but y'all get what I'm saying. All right?